Yeah, so I didn't expect that. I mean, sure, ranking letters by how easily you can capitalize them is a fun, creative idea. But 1 million views? I don't know what to do. What's the next step? Where do I go from here? Help me. You guys want more ranking videos? That much is clear. But I just don't really know what I'd rank. There's not really... I got it. So what do I mean by that exactly? Ranking colors by their accuracy. How do you determine the accuracy of a color? Great question, Pixel from the failed attempt at an intro. How do you determine the accuracy of a color? Well, for this video, I've come up with 2 pieces of criteria that I believe are good ways of deciding just how accurate a color can be. The first is consistency. Basically, how well do things that are a certain color feel like that color? And like, what's the general like vibe of that color? And how well does the color taste? Combine all these incredibly hard to measure and vague factors, and that's half of how I'll be ranking the colors on this list. The other half will be decided by the color's proficiency. Put simply, how versatile is the given color? How many different hues does the color encompass? Can it easily be confused with entirely different colors? How talented and skilled is the given color at being itself? That's a real question I just asked. These 2 criteria are loosely what I'll use to place the colors where I have on this tier list. And now feels like a good time to mention, this video is not objective in any way, obviously. Colors are like the most subjective thing ever. So this video is quite literally just my silly little goofy opinions on where I'd put colors on a tier list using severely unspecific criteria. All for your viewing entertainment. So make sure to do just that. Enjoy the video. Out of the 12 colors I've chosen to put on this list, indigo is easily last place. Cause like, what even is an indigo? Despite the fact that indigo is integrated into Roy G. Biv, the 7 most important colors in the rainbow, I've never actually heard anyone describe something as indigo, ever. Anytime me or someone else has seen something that's like definitively indigo, we just say it's blue or purple. In fact, I can remember multiple arguments I've had with family and friends arguing over whether something's blue or purple when I guess the right answer would have been that it's indigo. But that just never occurred to us. So not only does indigo not have enough originality to like be its own color in daily description, but like, it's not even its own color. There's a flower by the name of indigo that's used to make indigo dye, and the indigo flower is purple. Who decided that this is a top 7 color? Who? I genuinely can't think of anything that's indigo that I would think of and say, yeah, that's an indigo thing, rather than just saying it's a dark purpley blue thing or a blue purpley thing. To any indigo fans watching, sorry to all 2 of you. Next up is white, which I know technically not a color, but I've included white, gray, and black on this list. These guys need some recognition, okay? I don't care if they're not technically colors, they're something, and so they're going on the list. As a color, white feels pure, serene, blank. It's kind of just got this element of neutrality, but in like a lighthearted way. Some white things include pearls, snow, clouds, and milk. Milk is goated, by the way, second best drink other than water. And those are all things that feel very right as white. However, there's a lot of things that are described as white that just aren't white. Like people. Additionally, the sun is technically white, but it's just not. It's always orange or yellow. And then are there any like white flavors? Because like when I was researching this, yes, I did research for this video. The only thing I could find was the white Airheads flavor, which just doesn't taste like white. The only other thing I could find was the white gummy bear flavor, which is pineapple. And I don't know if pineapple as a flavor fits white, but it somehow works for me with the gummy bear. That's like the only thing though, in terms of artificial flavors, but anything naturally white, like coconut and milk, I would say taste white. I'm realizing very early on that this is gonna be a very silly video. White is a color that has a very thin range to it. It's very, very, very specific. It's probably the thinnest range out of every color we'll discuss today, because you can only just barely darken it before it becomes gray, and if you tint it in any way or add different colors to it in any way, it just ceases to be white and becomes a very, very light shade of that color, which once again means that a bunch of things that are labeled as white aren't technically white. White is a solid color for what it is, and when something is purely white, it really fits the vibe of white. But it's just so specific that everything else that gets grouped in as white, even though it's technically not, kind of downplays the accuracy of this color. It's solid for what it is, but it's hard for it to have much variety. Up next is purple. The thing with purple is that it's a really nice color that works, but it's just not unique to like anything besides flowers. I guess purple guy, he's pretty purple. It's just inoffensive. It doesn't attach itself to anything that feels purple. There's purple grapes, and the grape flavor is purple, but I want to push back on that a little. Grape flavor doesn't taste like grape at all. My friend described it as being the flavor of purple. Can't argue with that. Purple has solid range. There's a whole lot of different colors that fall under purple, like lavender. Like, you get a whole lot of purples with purple. I think purple's biggest struggle is just when it gets confused with blue. Or I guess indigo is what it would get confused with, but we all know indigo is made up by the government anyway. It's just kind of a color that exists, but it's doing everything right. It's just not unique to enough things for me to have a solid definition of the color. There's only a few things that I can think of that are pink and feel that way, but they're all very fitting, and I'm sure you can think of the exact same ones. You have animals like flamingos, pigs, axolotls, the bald wakari monkey. Come on, guys, we all know what that is. Cherry blossoms are pink and gorgeous, might I add. Best tree, obviously. And as for flavor, the only thing I can really think of is strawberry ice cream, which I think works, but I can't... Pink is kind of a weird one when it comes to flavor, because a lot of the times it ends up being strawberry, but that's just not what a strawberry is. However, I think pink works, although it is technically just a lighter shade of red. It's different enough to the point where I've given it its own category, but that is still going to dock points from it. Additionally, it can very easily lean too much into red or purple, but I think as a case-by-case basis, it works. I think my main issue with pink is not necessarily that it does anything heinous like some of the colors we'll see later, but it's just not original and solid enough on its own right. It doesn't cover enough ground to be anything special, so that's why I've put it on the lower end of the list. After pink, we have black. Similar to white, it can't really get any lighter, otherwise it becomes gray. And if you add a different color to it, then it just becomes a very, very dark shade of that color. However, I'm willing to forgive black a bit more than white just because I feel like dark shades of certain colors, as well as like a really dark gray, can still be classified as black. It's also more confident in itself than white. I don't know why I wrote that. As for things out in the world that are black, you have coal, you have blackberries, you have a whole lot of stuff that is black. And I guess technically, you know, pure black would just be no color at all. But a lot of things that are painted black are just seen as black and not gray. You also have space, black holes, and the void. The fact that black is the absence of color, and these things that are like the absence of matter are all black, it feels very fitting. And yeah, I get that it feels right because that is like how it works, but shut up. Also, when you turn off the light in a room, everything in the room is black. Without light, you don't have color. As for flavor, blackberry, I guess, but more often than not, when there's a black flavor, it's black licorice. Shout out to you if you like black licorice. You're clinically insane. Now there's blue, and I have a big feeling that this is gonna be the most controversial one. Not necessarily because of where I've placed it, but I feel like there will be a lot of people arguing that blue is S tier, so to speak, and a lot of people will be arguing that blue is F tier, so to speak. But let me make my case before you rush to the comments section to argue with me about colors in a YouTube video. Why are you watching this? If I ask you what is blue, you'll give me two things most likely. There are two big things that are known as blue things. Those are, of course, the sky and the ocean. Neither of which are blue. I mean, yeah, they're blue, but they're not blue 'cause they're blue. The sky isn't actually a physical thing that is blue. It's more so, why is the sky blue again? Hey guys, it's me, Professor Pixel, here to teach you about light and its effects on our atmosphere. So, basically, light travels in waves, and different colors consist of different wavelengths, with red being the longest and blue being the shortest. So when light from the sun, which is indeed white, passes through our atmosphere, it scatters everywhere. And this is due to the many molecules and particles that exist within our atmosphere that kind of break up the light as it's coming down. And because blue consists of shorter and smaller waves than the other colors, it's scattered the most, resulting in a blue sky. Now, I kind of just found all this out today, so I was trying to figure out why we don't see everything as blue if only blue light is reaching us, and I couldn't quite figure that out. I don't know, I'm kind of lost now. Something about how the light scatters more as it gets closer to the surface and whatnot. I'm not really sure, man. Either way, this has been Professor Pixel, signing off. It's just not a thing that exists physically. It's more just a space that happens to be that color. And the ocean is just copying the sky. So neither are technically blue. Do I think that the vibe of blue matches both the sky and the ocean? Sure. But I don't think that they've earned the right to have that vibe. Also, the Earth is described as the blue marble, but like, there's not just blue on the Earth. If someone handed me a marble that was like 70% blue with like little patches of green and brown here and there, and they said, what color is this marble? I would say, man, this looks a lot like the Earth. It's mostly blue, but I probably wouldn't define it as a single color. Neptune, that's a blue marble. Or would it be an indigo marble? However, there are some things that I think thoroughly match the vibe of blue. Those being things like jeans. Not all jeans are blue, but blue jeans feel like blue. I don't really know how else to define it. Sonic the Hedgehog, the blue blur, he's cool. Speed, lightning, blue. Those all kind of mix, I feel like. And jumping into flavor, blue is often associated with blueberry or blue raspberry. And I will say that blueberries are blue. I don't know where anyone got this misconception from that they're purple. However, I want to say that I feel like blueberry and blue raspberry flavors in a lot of things don't feel blue. I think the most blue flavor I've ever had is like those gummy sharks. You know what I'm talking about? That is blue as a flavor. I think a close second is specifically the blue raspberry Slurpee. As for blue as a concept, it has solid range. You have dark, deep blues and then light sky blues, baby blues, periwinkle is kind of blue. I don't know why periwinkle came to mind. Kind of how we touched on with indigo, it is easy to confuse with purple. And then when it comes to green, green, I would say is more green than blue. You know? But I think blue overall has solid range. I think specifically though, it's just the vibe of it, especially with the sky and the ocean, the two bluest things in this world that just drag it down. At number 6, we have red. Before you get yourself in a twist, hear me out. Obviously, you have fruits, the most obvious one being apples, but not all apples are red. You have red apples, you have dark red apples, but you also have yellow apples and green apples, and the big apple. You also have things very specifically described as red that aren't red, like the red planet is Mars. But you can't look at any picture of Mars that's not photoshopped and tell me that's red. That is the brownest orange planet I've ever seen. There's also red pandas, which are, again, orange, not red. These are like hyper-specific examples, I know, but this is my list, and I'm gonna rank things as I please. However, there are things that I think red does right. The feeling that red invokes is easily the strongest out of any color. This feeling of anger, intensity, passion, communicated through stop signs, blood, traffic lights, all these things feel red because they are intense. You also have Red Dead Redemption 2. I just like that game. I wanted an excuse to mention it. I broke that goddamn wheel. And then for flavors, red is often strawberry or cherry. Both of those fit. Can't really complain. There's also blood, but blood doesn't really taste red, nor is it something that's ever put into a flavor. I'm not a vampire, I promise. I'm a normal person. I'm a chill guy. We can hang out. We can still be friends. You can even let me into your house if you want. Just no garlic. I'm allergic. Lastly, red covers a decent range. It can kind of dip into pink territory, but not enough to the point where I care. There are some clear oranges, though, that are described as red, which I can't decide if that's more a knock against orange or a knock against red. But for the sake of red pandas and the red planet, I'm gonna knock it against red. I think yellow is the epitome of those memes that are like, bro thinks the world is all sunshine and rainbows. It kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, but not enough to rank it low. True yellow is a solid representation of the color. It's like white, but almost better in my opinion. A good yellow, that's yellow, right? Like you look at a good, solid, pure yellow and you just go, that's yellow. This video is such a waste of time. It does have a super thin range. It's very easy for yellow to dip into green and become a green rather than a yellow, but it also houses gold under it as a subsidiary color, and I think that works really well. Gold things feel gold/yellow. I think gold is helps yellow a lot. I mean, yellow, you have the sun, which technically is white, but that's a knock against white, not against yellow. Dandelions, yellow ducks, rubber ducks, you have all, these things all feel yellow, and they feel very cheery, and I think yellow's vibe. It just brings that positivity into the world that the world needs. Finally, there's flavor. I think yellow gets lemon most of the time, with the rare exception of banana. I think lemon fits it a lot better than banana does, although it's kind of ironic because lemon is a sour color, and yellow is the antithesis of sour. That nice bit of irony, though, kind of helps ground yellow, and it makes it feel almost more real. So, I think it works. But you know what works better? Brown is a weird one, and probably the closest to not making this list. But Brown is such a talented player, clearly. It's at spot number 4. How did it get here? Well, first of all, the biggest things that I could think of that are brown work both in vibe and in flavor, which is gonna make me seem like a weirdo in a minute once I start describing the things I'm talking about. First off, you have coffee and chocolate, two very different things that both feel brown and feel like they should taste brown. You have earth, as in dirt, like the ground beneath your feet. That looks, feels, and probably tastes brown. You have tree trunks, which look, feel, and taste brown. I don't know, I'm not a beaver. These things all feel brown. And despite all tasting incredibly different, they all taste brown. There's just so much consistency between all these things in terms of their color and their taste. And I think that consistency is so strong that it moves brown up to where it is on this list. And then the range of brown, it's broad from being dark brown to light brown to potentially peach/tan if you want to include those. But other than that, it's not super broad, and it kind of just sticks to its own game in a solid way. But unlike purple and pink, brown has really solid examples going for it. Like pink, brown is just an offshoot of another color being a darker orange, but it just plays such a good game. I have to give it respect for that. I want to be honest, before I had the criteria written for this video and I really sat down and looked at the colors and ranked them, gray was spot 11, I'm pretty sure. Because my brain went, oh, indigo always gets confused between blue and purple, gray always gets confused between white and black. But that's not the case. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. White and black are more easily confused with gray than the other way around. Unlike white and black, gray has the largest range out of every color on this list. I mean, on a spectrum, you have just almost black and just almost white, and everything between that is gray. It's really hard to look at something and not be sure if it's gray or not, with the only exception really being a kind of blue-gray, but that's still blue-gray, so it's still gray. I have written in my notes that it's the most inoffensive color ever. I feel like that's true. Regardless of how well gray suits the things around us, which we'll get to, and trust me, it does, it just has so much range with so little controversy. The gray situation is insane is not a video you'll ever see. It's such a hyper-neutral color. It has so much to do and does so little bad while doing it. As a nice bonus, silver is a really good color to have under its belt. The only flavor I could really attribute to gray would be metal, but I think that works. Although not all metal is gray, of course. It's just that like the majority of metal things that you would like taste if you eat metal things. Are you the Iron Giant? I don't know. I think metal as a flavor best suits gray or silver, but I wasn't really considering flavor for gray. And that's its only real issue, is that it doesn't really have a flavor attributed to it. But it was my idea to put flavor on this list for colors. But as for actual items, you have things like elephants, the moon, ash, rocks, which are all vastly different, but all feel gray. And then of course, as we mentioned, you have silver, multiple metals, alloys, materials, all things that feel gray. Like I've said a million times already, the main reason I've put gray this high, probably the biggest reason, is because it just does so much while simultaneously being so inoffensive. I've rambled about gray for too much. I didn't realize I had this much to say, but gray, big ol' thumbs up from me. However, while gray is super inoffensive, the things that it's attributed to aren't as solid as this color, which you already know because the title card already popped. Green is the nature color. Grass, plants, bushes, brush, trees, leaves. So much of our natural world is just green. I mean, when you Google things that are green, the only two things you get that aren't living things are emerald and jade, which are also technically natural things, but not in the same way that I was using the word. Outside of nature, the only things I could really come up with for green, after thinking for a lot longer than it was worth, are money and like green for go, like a traffic light. And both of those things work for green. But green just has so much more relevance in the natural world that those things don't really offset it at all. You can't go outside. Plus, green has incredible range. A lot of blue-greens, I think, would still classify as green, and a lot of green-yellows, I would say, are green, not yellow. Look at a color wheel. How much of that would you be willing to give to green? Because it's easily a fifth for me. This incredibly wide range with an incredible amount of versatility mixed with such consistency over what green is associated with, I think has to put it this high on the list. Also, for flavor, it's always lime, green apple, or watermelon, which I think all work. Not that well, but, you know, good enough. Except for Haribo gummy bears, which make it strawberry for some reason. Man, if I had a nickel for every time I would have specifically mentioned Haribo gummy bears when talking about colors in relation to flavors, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. However, green is not number 1. Number 1 goes to easily or... I think I could just say oranges as a fruit, and I rest my case. But it doesn't stop there. Carrots, mangoes, pumpkins, those are all orange, and they feel orange. In terms of man-made things, traffic cones, that's like the biggest thing I'd say. Those are all very orange, obviously, but like in like a, in terms of vibes, you have autumn, fall. Those are incredibly orange. The leaves turn orange. It's just gorgeous season. Like that all fits very well with orange, I would say. The months of October and November are both associated with orange, and I would say very accurately. I mean, the flavor orange is the name of the color, and it tastes orange. And yeah, it's probably because there's a fruit called orange that most orange flavors are based on. But like, still, it just works, you know? The proficiency of orange is just so incredibly surprising too. It's not red, it's not yellow, it's orange. Yellow orange is orange, red orange is orange. Even peach and tan I could make a case for being orange. All oranges feel orange. I don't really have specific arguments to make in favor of orange. It's just orange. Can you think of something wrong with orange? Out of all the colors that have earned their title, I think orange has done it the most. Fun fact, there's not even like a negative color to be associated with orange, right? Because you have like evil red or like sad blue or like sickly green. Orange has nothing. Orange is just a happy-go-lucky little guy. I think orange just works. I can't really give hyper-specific reasons as to why, like with gray or green, but it just feels right. I knew from the get-go that orange was gonna be number 1, and I never had a thought to discredit me from putting it here. So class, what did we learn today? Not really anything, probably. Yeah, no, probably nothing.